Ryan, let's get to Israel.
Let's
Tell
move
us
to the actual war. So Netanyahu, and we'll get to this in a moment, has announced that he is going to transform the assault on Gaza into a long-term occupation. Whether or not he actually does that, or this is just a negotiating ploy, remains unclear. Donald Trump has supposedly greenlit this strategy. He was asked yesterday, does he believe that what Netanyahu is doing is a genocide? Here was his response.
They see evidence of a genocide in Gaza?
I don't think it's that. Look, they're in a war. Some horrible things happened on October 7th, as you know. It was a horrible, horrible thing. One of the worst I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of bad things since some president in terms of wars and potential wars. I mean, if you look at the one that we just stopped, there are thousands of people being dead already at the border between Thailand and Cambodia. Thousands of people. And I mean, I've seen some bad things, but that October 7th with Hamas was really, really bad.
Thailand and Cambodia.
Cambodia,
definitely the hot spot.
I don't remember thousands of people. I think it was one Thai soldier. Anyway. So Amit Siegel, who is important to follow because he channels Netanyahu.
He's a Netanyahu English mouthpiece,
right?
And is very open about his not only support but conveying the internal views of the government.
Right.
So that's why we're putting this up there.
So whether what Amit Siegel is saying is true or not isn't the point. We know it is coming direct from Netanyahu.
Correct.
So we can put up B2 here. He had a major report yesterday that Netanyahu has made the decision that there's going to be a massive expanded invasion of Gaza, including a long-term occupation, and that they're willing to operate in areas where they suspect that hostages are being kept, which has been a line that they have publicly at least attempted not to cross because, for obvious reasons, it puts them at immediate risk of being killed, either by Israel, by the IDF, or by their captors, who Hamas has long said have been told, if you're guarding hostages and they're trying to take them by force, that's it. You all go down.
Well, let's go even further. He says, we are going to occupy the Strip. The decision has been made.
Yeah.
Hamas won't release more hostages without total surrender. We won't surrender. If we don't act now, the hostages will starve to death and Gaza will remain under... The hostages will starve to death, not everybody else. Will starve to death and Gaza will remain under Hamas control. Amit says, Israel was at a crossroads. It's achieving neither victory nor hostage release. The figure says that the mandate of negotiations is broad, but no deal was reached, so they're going to move to occupy Gaza. Now, quote, occupying Gaza entails what exactly, Ryan? I mean, it could entail all sorts of things. First, it could entail literally like house-to-house combat. I'm going to rule that out because they haven't done it in the last 2 years, and that would be what you would actually want to do if you wanted to rescue the houses. So they just destroy the houses, starve the population, immiserate the entire population, try to drive them out. Quote, voluntary migration, I guess, in the ways that they put it. But second is occupying Gaza entails the, quote, indefinite presence that they originally had wanted. And so this is not an occupation, it's an annexation. And it's an annexation which will be, look, I mean, I know we're already in an extraordinary part, and yes, they already control the borders and all that, but it is important to distinguish what this, quote, full-scale occupation would look like, because it would mean the political administration of the state. And it would be entirely not just U.S. funded, but it would allow them to facilitate their so-called voluntary migration, the forced expulsion of whoever is left living inside of the Gaza Strip. Further, basically enacting their policy of starvation or denial of aid or all of these other things, on top of a U.S.-led administration. I don't want to drop that either, because that's the American point of all of this, is that you think Israel has the money or the manpower to actually
Right,
quote
no.
occupy. Forget about it. Okay, look
No,
at
they
look at
can't.
them.
They can't keep up what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Their current pace of operations, they've already had 1,000 soldiers killed, a bunch of them. They're already having major reservist problems. Money. I mean, it costs an extraordinary amount of money to continue their military. They're going to need untold numbers of bailouts from the U.S. to continue this occupation. And considering the way that they've acted, I think we all know what that occupation would look like. It'll literally look like Iraq, look like a cakewalk. And of course, the political risk and all of that then falls on who? America, right? And I think that's a very important part of the story, and broadly what this will all look like for this occupation. This is not about hostages. This is about full-scale annexation, recontrol of the land, maybe even more so than the West Bank now.
And tactically, because of the tunnel system, it's not at all obvious how they could even accomplish this. In Beit Hanun, for instance, IDF has gone in, I believe, 5 times and declared each time that they had operational control.
Yes.
They went back in recently to this place that they said they had operational control and immediately got hit with an ambush. Hamas and the other resistance factions, because it's not just Hamas, rely for their primary supply of weapons, unexploded Israeli bombs. Israel has dropped, multiple Hiroshima's worth of explosives on Gaza, because they are dropping them in what they call non-ideal circumstances. In other words, you're not supposed to just drop them on random urban environments. And when you do, they don't explode at the normal rate. And they already started with a bunch of their older stuff. So, you're looking at a 10 to 20% dud rate. Even if it's a 2% dud rate, that means that there is nearly an unlimited supply of explosive material for Hamas and other resistance groups to extract. That's literally where they get their weapons. Then they turn them into small bombs, and they, on foot, walk them up to tanks and then blow up the tanks.
So it's like basically IED, North Vietnam story, very common.
And so as long as there are human beings alive willing to do that, they're going to continue to do that. So you have to depopulate entirely the Gaza Strip, basically. Like if you're going to hostily occupy it, how do you do that without American troops?
Yeah, well, okay.
And even with them, honestly,
even
with
without
American troops,
U.S. troops.
you're not
By the
doing
way,
that.
even with U.S. troops, it would be a disaster, and we should have absolutely nothing to do with that. But and I don't think that will happen. But Gaza Lago, which is basically what Trump determined is the policy,
Yes.
the U.S. is going to own it. If it is a U.S.-led administration, then we own all. I mean, we already are funding and are diplomatically running cover, but it's a whole other thing to actually have actual administration. And that's what Israel wants. They want our ownership of Gaza so that they can push off the diplomatic cover and everything and then make all of us own it. And effectively, that's what Trump declared originally in the Oval Office in his meeting with Netanyahu about taking over Gaza. But this basically pairs with the literal expulsion of all of the citizens, taking them over. And there's just no world where this is going to work out better for the people and for the Palestinians, right? Where they're going to be under genuine direct Israeli occupation. In the same way, let's just look at the peaceful West Bank, which we covered yesterday, where people are being murdered in cold blood by a lot of these settlers. I mean, how soon do the settlers start coming in behind the IDF, which is the dream of the Israeli cabinet?
No,
they say it out loud.
Smotrich, Ben-Gvir, and all those, that's what they want. They want settlers in Gaza. And just to show how kind of corrupt the negotiation process was recently, put up B3 here. So the Times of Israel saying that there's a Saudi report that says Hamas is under pressure to show flexibility, but unclear if new talks are in the offing. And Jeremy Scahill will have more on this for Drop Site tomorrow. But Hamas officials have been speaking publicly, and we have the paper that was passed back and forth in the negotiations. According to Netanyahu and Witkoff, who walked away, that one of the big stumbling blocks was Hamas was refusing to disarm. According to Hamas, and according to all of the documents that are public that were swapped back and forth, that was never discussed as part of the negotiations, because it's not going to happen. So you don't discuss things that aren't going to happen. Like Hamas has said, we're not asking Israel to abandon Tel Aviv. We'd like them to. They say out loud they'd like them to, but we're not asking for that in the negotiations. We're trying to. Hamas says that they were on the brink of signing and they were moving toward the implementation phase. And there was nothing in there about disarming. It was about, the pace of the Israeli withdrawal from their current positions, the number of hostages exchanged on each side, and the flow of aid into Gaza. Like that's what they're talking about. And then all of a sudden, Witkoff and the others just blow the whole thing up and are now talking about a massive occupation.
And the thing they're blowing it up over, Ryan, as I understand it, having read Scales and others reporting, is about this literal occupation in the terms of occupation.
Yes.
Because they don't want them to just demilitarize and lay down their weapons. They're like, you have to effectively surrender. They're like,
Right.
all of Gaza, we will determine what area is ours for a
We'll have
DMZ.
these humanitarian
It will have a
zones.
humanitarian zone.
Gaza
I mean, it basically looks like it does right now, right?
Right.
Which is, but I mean, last time we had talked, you had told me that a lot of the population was even willing to take that. Well, where's the population on this question? That's
I think still to this day, anything that gets in aid, food, and stops the bombs for 60 days or 30 days, they'd be like, just do it.
Yeah.
Because they don't trust what's written down anyway. So it's like, if we can get 30 or 60 days. So Hamas was, you can look at what they were willing to move on, was being quite flexible, just because they knew how much pressure they were under from their own population. And that's why it had to end the way it did, with Hamas thinking that they were about to sign a deal and move to the implementation phase, and Witkoff shocking even the Qatari and Egyptian mediators and announcing that Hamas is being inflexible and the whole thing is off. Because it couldn't end with Hamas being inflexible and announcing that they were walking away, because they weren't willing to. Hamas was going to cave on whatever.
Yeah.
So that's why you had to have this weird, wait a minute, Witkoff is announcing that Hamas is saying no? Wouldn't Hamas be the one that would say no if it's true that they were saying no?
Right.
And then Hamas comes out, they're like, we didn't say no. What are you doing, bro?
And so this is all under pressure from whom? Is this from the Israeli government, on the American government? In terms of the way that they're.
Question.
Well, the way that
It's
it
like
all
the
seems
U.S.
to me.
and Israel just are a lockstep.
Yeah, it looks to me as if not only lockstep, but basically making it so that Hamas, they said they won't do it, and they wanted occupation this whole time. That's how it appears to me.
Yeah.
And they've said it, they want occupation the whole time.
Yeah. And meanwhile, we can put up before Netanyahu is trying to reshape the government in multiple ways. People who aren't following this closely might not realize the man spends a significant amount of his time in court fending.
It's like Bill Clinton
fending
in
off corruption
1998.
charges.
Yeah, starting wars to distract from his own personal problems.
And he and his aides are accused of being on the dole of Qatar, which is hilarious on a bunch of different layers. So now he moved to get rid of the attorney general who's prosecuting him. The Supreme Court has held this up. This is at the heart of his judicial reform that kind of blew up the country's politics prior to October 7th. You had all these protesters out in the streets for a year trying to stop him from doing this kind of judicial reform that everybody assumed was related to his own prosecutorial problems. Now he's going after the actual prosecutor. And meanwhile, he got rid of this Edelstein, who is the head of this committee that oversees basically the army, and in a massive fight over whether or not the Haredi should be subject to the draft and should participate in the war. And so Netanyahu, on the one hand, getting rid of the attorney general, on the other hand, doing everything he can to keep his right-wing coalition together by excluding a huge portion of the population from having to participate for religious reasons in this war. And so the country is, thoroughly united on the kind of genocide. Like, you look at the polls on that, it'd be an interesting challenge for a pollster to try to find a question that was so grotesque and over the top that it wouldn't get a majority of Israeli support in surveys. So they're united on that, but everywhere else, the society is torn apart, and those are the conditions on which he thinks he's then going to launch a massive war in Gaza, while at the same time hugely inflaming tensions in the West Bank, There currently, if you haven't been following this, there was a radical settler murdered a well-known West Bank activist.
We covered it.
Yeah, who's featured in No Other Land. He's free. The guy's family is still in jail for no reason, and they're keeping the body. And like, so you're going to do all this and also then launch a massive occupation of Gaza?
See, that's why so many Americans, there's so many ironies going on here. Number one, the Israel firsters in America are always like, you're funded by Qatar if you're critical of Israel. And I'm like, well, the only people where there's some like direct evidence who are being funded by Qatar are Netanyahu's closest political advisors who are under indictment. And Bibi is under...
Who he was using to fund
Who
Hamas.
he was using to fund Hamas, right. And so then we use it even further. Well, Bibi's actually under corruption trial. Every single time that something happens, he's like, oh, I'm sorry, we need to pause this because I'm bombing Syria today.
Yes.
Or I'm occupying Gaza today. And then slowly but surely, he's fired. I mean, it's literally like the original scandals back in the day in 2017 about firing Comey. I mean, he fired his FBI director, the Shin Bet director, over this corruption investigation. Now he's firing the attorney general. They had the, quote, judicial reform. I mean, it's cartoonish corruption. And at every single point, escalation in the war in Gaza and or with Iran and or with Syria is linked, lo and behold, to developments with his corruption trial. It happens like clockwork. But people here are so illiterate that they don't even know, even the pro-Israel groups, about what's actually happening in the country that they're supposedly passionate about. Is that he's obviously using his foreign policy to protect himself for political purposes. First, it was October 7th. Remember, we'll talk about October 7th after the war in Gaza is finished. You never end the war, never have to talk about it. Wait for people to forget. It's like 9/11. By the time of the 9/11 Commission report, we're bogged down in Iraq. Everyone's like, whatever. You know, it was 3 years ago.
Right.
You know, it's the same thing.
Right, now
happens
it's
every
in the
time.
past.
Right. It's all in the past. Why are you so why are you harping on the past? You mean the event that literally got us into the war? Yeah. That's the that is the difficulty of all of it. And then finally, B6, Ryan, tell us what happened.
Yeah, so this is just utterly tragic, outrageous. Odeh Nahal Al-Kareen, nurse at Al-Aqsa Hospital, just days ago posted a video talking about how humiliating these aid drops are. That, what are you doing? Like, why are you dropping aid out of airplanes when you have all of these land crossings just right there? If you want to bring in aid, put it on a truck, put the truck in first gear, hit the gas, and bring it in. Like, it is not complicated at all. And bring in enough trucks so that starving people aren't looting them the second they get in. Like, quite simple. This nurse, Odeh, killed by a falling aid drop yesterday.
Wow.
Like,
and many of these airdrops have killed a lot of people. So we covered it.
And
when the U.S. dropped aid, the same thing happened.
And meanwhile, the head of nursing at Nasser Hospital was killed by a targeted strike yesterday in his tent with his family. So they killed this nurse accidentally with airdropped aid, and they still continue to target top medical professionals. Not collateral damage as part of some targeted operation at some militant or something, but identifying top medical staff and killing them in their tents with their families.
Wow.
Like, what are we doing?
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.